I'm hooked. So hooked. This effect is so delicious, you can never do two the same, which means I'm hooked. You're going to need frog molds or something similar for the project. I'll be adding some 8mm cabochon eyes with Let's Resin bonding UV and a torch. I like to draw on the back where the slit of the pupil is, so it doesn't have crazy eyes. You only need a small drop of UV resin in the socket. I prefer to use tweezers to help me add the eyes and adjust them into the correct position. Then use the torch for 20-30 seconds to hold down in place. Once I've done all the eyes, I always give it a minute under a UV lamp. For the resin, I'll be using what I have left over of the Apex High Gloss 1:1 by volume. I've already mixed it with my ISTOYO magic mixer, and it's time to pour some into its back. You only need approximately 20 ml for each mold. I like to do this as it creates a magnified effect. I poured some resin into a smaller cup to make it easier to pour on its front and the back legs. I only want a really small amount to fill in the deeper areas. You can use a Q-tip to clean up any overpour or splashes. Then leave them to cure completely. As I had resin still left over, I ended up doing a third. We will need 3 small cups and 3 stirring sticks. I've already prepared my resin and left it to warm up a bit as we want the resin to thicken up. Pour some resin into each mould, about 3/4 up, and add a small amount into the cups. I'm going to be using INTORESIN Intense Aurora Chameleon powders in glazed orange, blue and Tiffany. I will link everything I'm using in the description box and discount codes too. Add a small amount of each colour into the individual cups and mix the pigments in well. I'll be using light wish coloured UV resins for its toes. I've decided to go for the golden, the purple, the brown and the aqua blue colours. Dab a small amount into each toe and cure it with a UV torch. Once I did all the toes, I placed it under a UV lamp for about a minute. These are ready for the next step. Drizzle each colour over each frog. Don't fill it up to the top. Leave about 3mm. I also push the colour around with my mixing stick. I wish I had left them a little longer before adding the colour, just so that they were thicker. The resin, that is. Then leave them to cure for about 2 hours till they get tacky for the next step. I went for a coffee with a friend and ended up leaving them too long, to the point that they had cured and weren't tacky. Oopsie. Not to worry, we will find a way. For this next step, I'm going to be using Tiny Turner Chameleon Flakes. I'm going with the Kraken, the Chimera, and of course, Dragon. As you can see, the flakes won't stick to the cured resin. They would have if the resin was slightly tacky. So I sprayed the frog with some isopropyl alcohol and I added to a small cup to wet the ends of the bristles of a brush. Now it's sticking. Spend some time spreading the flakes over the whole area. I'm then going to go in with the Intensive Blue Chameleon from Let's Resin, in case I've missed areas with the flakes. With this one, I went back in with the Intense Chameleon in Grape. Or for this last one, I went in with the Magenta. I've prepared 60 ml of black polyurethane from Artist Spray and poured the mixture to the top. completely covering the whole mould. Don't worry about the overpour, as it will be easy to snip off. Leave them to cure and cool down for about 2 hours. These are nice and hard, ready to demold. Look at all these colours bursting through.
Oh yeah.
And finally, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Where was I? Oh yes. And finally, so yummy. I can't decide which is my favourite. Keep watching for the end results. Wait. No, not so fast. I did 2 more, but slightly different. I added some UV resin and this Aurora pigment into this needle bottle. I've already poured and cured the resin on its back, just like the other ones. I'm doing a simple pattern on top of the cured resin and setting it with my UV torch. These are ready. I'm going to use these gorgeous chameleon flakes from INTORESIN. I'll be doing 2 different effects. I haven't decided what colours I want to use, so I'll go with the flow. You'll need to spray some isopropyl alcohol so the flakes stick to the resin. With some tweezers, pick up some flakes and drop them into the mould sporadically. Then go in with a soft blending brush to spread and mix the flakes. The resin has been warming up. I'm pouring some into a small cup and adding this powder. I have no idea what it's called or where it came from. You can use any iridescent powder you want or have. Now we need to pour the warmed up resin into the mould, making sure to leave at least 3 millimeters in order to leave some space for the next step. Pour in the mixture from the small cup and use your mixing stick to push the colour into the nooks and crannies and let it cure. Back to this one. Pour the remaining resin into the mould. I wanted to try this colour I had, so I'm adding some resin into a small cup. This iridescent powder is definitely from Temu. I know it won't show up on the frog as we have the dark chameleon flakes already down, but I do want to see the colour for future projects. That's actually a really pretty colour. Pretty intense blue. I'm going to add some to the other frog too. Once you finish, let them cure. I've left these to cure for 2 hours. No coffee break. I'll be using a disposable brush as the resin is tacky. I'll be using these gorgeous chameleon flakes from INTORESIN to cover the whole piece. I'm also going to add Let's Resin Chameleon in magenta in case I've missed areas with the flakes. I'll be topping both frogs with black polyurethane. Leave them to cure and cool down. These are ready for demold. I left them the whole night in order to let the resin cure. Check out my bling ring from my previous video. It's so funky and happy. Okay, I like the colours. Very psychedelic. Shame you can't appreciate the colours through the video lens. On with the next one. Loving the colours. It has a few specks of powder which weren't mixed in well, but it doesn't distract. Let me know which is your favourite and keep on watching to see the end results. Toodles!